Hello and welcome back to another KCC video. I'm Rob and I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some entitled parents. Our story today comes to us from Jack 1978 DK. It was posted in 4 separate posts in Entitled Parents. It's titled, Weird Woman Believes Sailboats Are Public Property. Let's jump right into part 1. I'm a 43-year-old IT guy, divorced with 2 kids, girl 9, boy 7. I'm a member of a yacht club and own a smallish 34-foot Bavaria cruiser from 2008. Next to my kids, she's my pride and joy. Every year, I take 3 weeks vacation along with my kids, and we go cruising for the better part of those 3 weeks. We have a small dinghy that basically serves as our pickup truck and food haul. Now, because of COVID, we couldn't go anywhere outside our home country, so we said, F it, we'll be tourists in our own country, and went for a cruise to all the small, cozy harbors we normally don't see. So, cruise is a go, my son knows about the lines, and knows how to dock and whatnot. My daughter is the dinghy skipper during this, she loves that thing. We always have our club pennant flying, as well as the Jolly Roger. Jolly Roger means kids on board, come play. We leave our home port and spend a day and night at sea to get the sea legs growing and sharpen up on our boating drills. Retired Navy, can't help it. On our 3rd day, we arrive at a smallish marina, roughly 200 berths. In my country, calling ahead on VHF is not a thing. So the only thing to do is either going in with the boat or send in the dinghy to spot for a berth. Now, occupied berths are marked with a red sign. Available is a green sign. My kids know this and are also learning to spot a fitting berth. Our boat is 3.6 meters wide, and berths are different in width. So the trick is to spot a berth wider than 3.6 meters, but not wider than 4 meters, because that's the golden difference. Any berth wider than 4 meters costs a ton of money and is meant for bigger boats. Well, Captain Dinghy was volunteering, as always, to scout ahead while I and the XO were watching from just outside the inlet. She's equipped with, of course, life jacket, radio, not VHF since that requires a certificate, and a good idea on how wide 3.6 meters really is. Our dinghy happens to be 3.5 meters long, so as long as she can fit the dinghy from end to end between the posts, it fits, including engine. Now, most people that hang around marinas are used to seeing children in dinghies and wouldn't raise an eyebrow over a 9-year-old girl in a small dinghy wearing a life jacket and looking for empty berths. However, not all people are like that, which we would soon find out. She found one and radioed that back saying, "I've got one, Daddy. It's the Jeep here and I'm waiting for you here. Over." I replied with, "Good job, en route now, Daddy out." The owners of the boats on either side are the caring, nice older couples, and especially the portside neighbors are completely stunned by Captain Dinghy and her professionalism. They are small talking when we arrive to the berth and help mooring, for which I pay with a cold beer and a soda for the kids. Happy days all around. On the opposite side of the pier, a couple of boats also are flying the Jolly Roger, so the kids are off after a quick lunch. The berth directly opposite us is also available, but knowing from experience, that will soon change. And how right I was. Later in the afternoon, we saw the arrival of HMS Karen and her sailing circus. They arrived while the nice grandparents next door and I were discussing nice marinas to visit, and as a matter of course, we stood by to help receive lines and help with mooring. To simplify their docking, it was a crap show. They had a trimaran, 3 hulls. The outer 2 can retract when you dock and extend when you sail. They knew nothing about the boat, so clearly a rental boat. After 5 or 6 attempts of docking with one side retracted, other side retracted, no side retracted, full power plus screaming all around, the harbor master even came down to join us. Now, we stand 8 guys plus 1 harbor master, and just looking like, what the F are you doing? Even my 7-year-old son comes by with some new friends, and they're going, are they for real? Grandma Port quickly provided some ice and soda for the kids. She was amazing. We managed to convince them, the wrecking crew, to throw us the forward lines, and we could pull them in after they retracted both pontoons. This took the better part of 1.5 hours. When they finally docked, they acted like they invented boating. I know that docking in a foreign port can be quite difficult, but when you need 8 people to help you, one might keep a low profile. Not that couple though. They were totally clueless about how to get shore power, water, and how to register with the harbor master, who happened to stand right in front of them when they docked. The harbor master is now trying to guide how to register, what to do regarding shore power and water. And boy did they listen. HMS Karen started full yell about how they have paid a lot of money to rent that boat, and how they expected harbor fees to be included in the rent, and to threaten to report the harbor master to the rental company they used and get him fired for trying to extort money from them. After her endless monologue, there were about 8 to 10 guys laughing. The harbor master just looked at them and went, "Okay, these are the rules. Each marina requires a fee for docking. That fee covers power, water, and the space you occupy. It includes access to bathrooms, cooking facilities, and cleaning. Your rental company does not own any marina. Is that clear?" The circus husband understood, but failed to convey the last part to HMS Karen, something we found out later the next morning. Next morning, we prepared to go underway. Kids are saying goodbye to their new friends. My son is pampered with cookies from Grandma Port and Starboard. Broken hearts from the young girls in the marina. He's got blonde hair with curls and green eyes, a heartbreaker. And Captain Dinghy is getting ready to go underway. She's dressed in the uniform for the part, unicorn PJ pants, swimwear, and life jacket. Here's where the title comes into play. We are finishing our stay, meaning pulling our shore power cable, testing lights and systems, testing our bow thruster and prop, VHF and dinghy, while I'm standing at the stern ready to single up the lines so my curly-haired XO will have an easy job. HMS Karen comes running up to me. "What are you doing?" "Good morning. We'll get underway now. We're going to island recommended by Grandma Port. Enjoy your stay here." "What? You can't leave." Pretty sure I can. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because we want that boat." "What? You want my boat?" "Lady, my boat is not for sale, so excuse me, we have to go." "No, all boats are the property of rental company, and we called them yesterday and chartered that boat. Now hand it over or else." "Lady, you're nuts." To XO, clear forward lines. To Captain Dinghy, meet up outside the marina, docking starboard side. Now we are not attached to the marina anymore, and my son is rolling up the bow lines when HMS Karen tries to grab the push pit to keep us in the marina. Well, she lost that battle. "All stop, man overboard." She came up yelling and screaming. Starboard Granddad guided her on board their boat and asked her what the heck she was doing. Well, Port Granddad called the harbor master. "Is she okay?" "Yes, we got her. Enjoy your trip and we'll see you in the port." We leave and head for port. And oh boy, did I hope she was a one-time Karen. Well, it seems to me that it's a really bad idea to rent a boat to somebody with no experience at all on the water. Now, where I live in Ontario, you have to have a boating license in order to take pretty much any boat out on the water. So that kind of stops this situation from happening. Apparently, that's not how it works where OP's from. Let's jump right into part 2. When we left the marina and recovered Captain Dinghy and the dinghy, we set sail for an island suggested by Grandma Port. The sail was pretty uneventful. XO, my 7-year-old son, caught a fish, a nice 2-kilogram cod, dinner. Next morning, we had an equally uneventful docking next to a nice young couple that were on their first cruise in her parents' boat. A nice 30-foot boat, beautifully maintained. Because the marina had floating docks, we reversed in and lowered the stern. After the usual port docking exercise, fenders, lines, power, and check-in, we greeted the young couple next to us and checked out the marina. Jolly Roger still flying, so there was a couple of young pirates, kids, awaiting to see who the new recruits to the playground was. After a quick lunch, the kids were off. I was about to shut down the stationary VHF when I heard a call from the Coast Guard advising all mariners to keep a lookout for a stolen boat in the area, with a description vaguely matching my boat, as well as a couple of hundred others. It's not something that happens every day, but it happens that a few human beings are confused about the mine and not mine concept, so I took a note of it and turned off the VHF. At around 1600, 24-hour time, 4 p.m., I recognized a boat coming in and was pleased to see Grandma Port from the first port, standing up the stern looking for a spot. I hailed them and saw a spot opposite ours, but with a red tag. A quick call to the local harbor master later. It was owned by a local, but was available for 2 weeks. They just forgot to turn the plate. 15 minutes later, and both of them were sitting in the cockpit of my boat, having a drink with our new friends from next door. Now, this is Grandma Port's story. After we left and they got HMS Karen onto the dry land, she was raging that we tried to kill her, that we had stolen our own boat, and that she would throw us into a prison cell and throw away the key. Grandma Port was giggling and told her to calm down, that she did that to herself, and what was she thinking grabbing a boat pulling out? Grandpa Port told her to get on their boat, change into something dry, and enjoy herself, instead of making a fool of herself in front of her circus husband and their child. Now, I never saw the child, but apparently they had a toddler with them and not a life jacket or vest in sight. As one does, I checked in on the Book of Faces, and about 5 minutes later, I got a text from a guy I used to work with back in the Navy, asking me if I could supply a cold beer in about 10 minutes when he got off shift. One short trip to the mast and flags, Bravo Echo first sup, Romeo was flying, my friend arrived in uniform and asked where the heck his beer was at. We have known each other for the better part of 20 years, so he expected to get the "where the heck have you been, shipmate" back. After the hugging and the "how the heck are you" talk, I introduced him to my new friends and the grandparents. He definitely had Grandma Port on his good side because of the uniform. Even Grandpa Port started telling stories from back then in the Navy. I never told them that I did other than IT, so they didn't know about my naval background and was quite amused when my friend told them that I was his old petty officer. After the second round of flags, I asked about the call earlier from the Coast Guard. He's the chief petty officer at the nearby coastal watch station. And the way our Coast Guard and Navy works is that the Navy is in charge of the sea, but the Coast Guard enforces inside coastal waters. And oh boy, he got a call from the local police reporting the theft and possible hijacking of a sailboat from last port, as reported from an enraged woman, with a description of a boat similar to ours and that the harbor master knew about it. Grandpa Port just about left half of his drink through his nose when he heard that and started to raise his voice at my friend, in my defense, and told him what actually happened. That HMS Karen was nuts, that she tried to grab my boat after we pulled out of the slip, and that she was a complete waste of air. Thanks, Grandpa. That was you? I don't know. Oh my god, that was you. So now what? No worries, I'll call it off and talk to my captain in the morning. Great. Noticing a police officer walking towards our boat. Can you do it now? Now, have any of you ever heard the phrase, "the Navy is a small place"? It turned out that my friend was the officer's instructor at boot camp, as I was his. Sorry, Chief. Are the Navy handling this? Hi, name, how are you? Care to explain? Well, we had a report of a theft of a boat, and the harbor master told us that a boat fitting the description pulled in this morning. Well, let's check this out then, shall we? OP, you have your certificates and proof of insurance and ownership with you, right? Sure, hands PO my binder with certificates. Well, nothing to worry about here, but have you by chance seen the boat in question? Before I can say anything, Grandpa Port interjects. Officer, if that report came in from a wet, loud, and wide woman, I have a story to tell you. Explained story from the previous port. Okay. Chief, are you backing this up? As sure as you wouldn't like to go at the pit at boot camp. Right, Chief. Sorry to bother you guys, but you know how it is. He left after that, and things turned back to normal. Kids got home, dinner, bedtime, sundowner with the neighbors, who now had a lot to talk about. I think we're all ready to raise a glass to Grandma and Grandpa Port. They seem like amazing people. Let's see if that continues in part 3. As mentioned in part 1, my boat is a Bavaria 34 cruiser. It used to belong to my grandparents, but when my grandma had her stroke back in 2012, my granddad stopped sailing. They passed in 2013, 3 weeks after each other. Granddad wasn't ill or anything, he just gave up after Grandma passed after her third and last stroke. Before they passed, they willed the boat to me because my parents already have a boat, and they knew that I loved sailing in her. So it's not that I'm a rich, spoiled brat who just got a boat, but there's many emotions involved when sailing her. I grew up spending summers on their old boat, learning from both Granddad and my dad as to how to sail, which eventually led me to my naval career, ending in my retirement from the Navy when I turned 35 and my contract expired. The point being that I always need to convince myself if Grandma would approve if I try to change something or upgrade. In my mind, it's still their boat in some ways. This year, I spoiled the boat rotten and myself by buying a new chart plotter that integrates all sensors, depth sounder, Windex, autopilot, and AIS. AIS is a system that shows information on other boats as well as your own, similar to what airplanes use. As we already planned to stay for at least 4 days, I thought that this would be the perfect time to upgrade my existing chart plotter for the new one. And as luck was still present, Grandpa Port was an electrician before he retired. So off to the supermarket I went for the purchase of liquid monies to pay said electrician that I just hauled out of retirement for a day. Now, the marina we stay in is rather large, meaning that I either have a long walk followed by a heavy walk back, or I'll have Captain Dinghy give me a lift to the old port and join me for my shopping needs. The supermarket is basically 100 meters from the old port, so off we went. Her at the helm, I'm in the front acting as ballast. EXO was with friends and knew his way around. Also, he knew who had an abundant supply of ice cream available. Thanks again, Grandma Port. We arrive to the supermarket and all is well. Then my daughter just lets out a F. It's HMS Karen, yelling at her poor circus husband because apparently the item she wanted is sold out. I'm not a fan of my children swearing, but this time I think she was on point, so I let it slide. We ducked the heck out of there and went to the checkout where we found a small gift basket style flower arrangement with a bottle of wine and some chocolate for Grandma Port, the liquid monies, and a small refill for the pantry. When we had bagged everything, we left for the dinghy. If only we had run the red light at the crosswalk outside the supermarket. Hey you, to Captain Dinghy, not happening. Now you get in the dinghy, get your life jacket on, and throw me the rope we used to get goods aboard. Dad, she's nuts. I'll hook your life jacket up as well when I throw the rope. Hey, I'm talking to you. You're the guy who stole our boat. Don't even think about moving. I'm not letting you get away. Lady, the mental hospital is not that far from here. Don't know, but it just seemed like the right thing to say. I'm sure someone there is able to help you. I'm putting on my life jacket and lowering the goods into the dinghy. All I need to do is get into the dinghy via the ladder that we tied up to. That's when suddenly I found myself floating in midair right next to the dinghy. She pushed me. The maniac pushed me off the effing dock. Our life vests are the manual type for adults, which means that I have to pull a cord for it to inflate. But the kids' vests are the automatic kind that inflate if they get wet. A small chalk tablet that dissolves in water makes sure that they inflate, but it still means I have to unwrap it, test it for 24 hours, then repack it. And also, that means that I'm one life vest short for 24 hours, and I have to replace the CO2 cartridge because it's been in water. No biggie, approximately $6 US. And I have a small supply on board the boat, but it's the principle. 2 steps up the ladder and I'm on board the dinghy. Captain Dinghy was amazing. Started the engine and used it to push the boat into the ladder, so I'm on board in no time. What are you doing? Don't even try to escape. And you, little girl, don't even think about trying to touch anything. That's nice. Reverses out and floors it out of the old dock. On our way back to the marina, my daughter just shook her head and said, "What a bee." Again, she's on point, so I let it slide. Back in the marina, we tied up to our boat and I got a change of clothes. The only casualty was my work phone, so I'll have to go back into town to get a new one. Luckily, it's a work expense, but it's a bee reconfiguring everything, including credit cards and such. Well, at this point, I'm extremely hoping that she gets arrested in part 4. But I'll be honest, I haven't read it yet, so let's get right to it. When Captain Dingy and I returned from the store and got on board, Grandpa Port was trying to teach XO how to splice a 3-strand robe and remarking the fact that I was soaking wet and the captain was bone dry. That had we used a lifeline like that in the dinghy, I wouldn't have fallen off. Thanks, Grandpa Port. As I went below for a change of clothes, my faithful companion told the grandparents what happened. Grandma Port hugged Captain Dingy and asked if she was okay, which was enough to make XO rolling with laughter. The grandparents offered to invite us over to their boat for dinner, which we happily accepted. Their boat is a bit smaller than ours, but their salon below deck is somehow bigger, go figure. Seeing as this has been an eventful day, the kids were given free roam to the playground, probably to plot the overthrow of the free world by pirates with the other kids, provided that Captain Dingy brought the small radio we normally use for docking so we could call them back when dinner was ready. Grandpa brought out a generous glass of his favorite rum while he and I discussed terms and conditions regarding the chart plotter replacement and the price in liquid monies, and also what the heck happened during the day. Grandma Port interjected during her hard work in the galley, supervising us preparing potatoes and cleaning the fish that would be our dinner, that I should call that nice young gentleman that came to visit us on our first day and maybe ask him if he could help. Grandpa was giggling when I asked if it was a dinner invitation, and if so, was the dress code uniform or casual? Grandma's rolling eyes and the following, "Oh God, men," was enough to make all three of us share a laugh. A quick call to my friend from before, and we were 6 persons having dinner in the nicest environment one could have. Grandma, that salmon was cooked to perfection. My friend then invited Grandpa and me out to a small place that served liquid monies in tall glasses, provided we didn't stay out late. My friend's fiance was getting along perfectly with Grandma and the kids, so off we went. We arrived to a small house of fluent currency and found a table. My friend bought the first round and Grandpa told the story about my impromptu flying lesson in the port, at which my friend had this odd look on his face. He excused himself for a minute and brought over a familiar face. Apparently, he spotted his private police friend while ordering and wanted to hear what the options were regarding HMS Karen. Well, as he told the story, the police got a call regarding theft of a boat, assault, and underage sailing of a dinghy. He and his partner were assigned the call and they responded. When they arrived, they were met by an enraged woman, claiming that she had been assaulted, had her sailboat stolen, and that the perpetrator was aided by an underage girl. When they asked her to elaborate, she was yelling at them, "I already told you, now do your job and arrest them." Now, as she was testing the hearing of people the next town over, a couple of fishermen who had docked further down the pier approached the partner and asked if this was about the assault on the guy who she threw off the pier. This got the attention of both the partner and him. They asked her about the incident and she replied with, "Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you. We found out that our first boat was too difficult to dock and then we rented a new one, but the previous renter wouldn't give us our boat. Instead, he insulted me, he stole our boat, and he had an underage child drive him." Ma'am, as I recall, you claim someone hijacked your boat. We even had the Navy looking out for them. Did you return your rental to the original place? And did it happen there? What difference does it make? We rented a boat bigger and better. They had one. We paid more. All boats are owned by the rental company anyway. We had the right to get our boat. Ma'am, as I've just heard from these people here, you just assaulted a person, not to include risking his life. Now, I need to see some ID, because if we get a report about this from the victim, you will face the charges, understand? Don't you talk back to me unless you have our boat. I'm not accepting your excuses. Get me my boat. And so, HMS Karen got a free ride in a smaller land-ridden boat, but with pretty lights on top. Our new police friend said she was a bee and finished his pint. No need to say it. I got up, went to the bar, and opened up a $100 tab for our new friend in law enforcement. We left right after the "no, I can't accept that" and whatnot, but my friend was firm. When we got back to the marina, the kids were sleeping on board our newfound grandparents' boat, and Grandma and my friend's fiance were laughing like teenage girls. Next morning, the kids said their goodbyes to their new grandparents, exchanged addresses, and we left the marina. We hope to see the Ports again next year, but if not, we'll come visit them. I don't know how to end this better than stay safe, listen to reason, and just because you're a Karen, don't push people in the water. So a couple things come to mind for me for this whole story, which was absolutely epic, by the way. So Karen, how do you not know that some people own their boats? What makes you think that they're all rentals? I don't understand that. I'm also left kinda wondering about the rental company side of the story, because Karen wanted a different boat, and the rental company said she could have another boat. Did they mean one that was across from her when she was at the rental place? Probably, and she just took it the wrong way. I have to admit though, the best part of this whole story was the sinking of the HMS Karen. When I read that she tried to grab the boat as it was pulling out of the slip, I was absolutely giddy because you knew that she was going to end up in the water. Thank you to OP for sharing all 4 parts of this story. They are linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.